Lecture notes at that point was only doing engineering. They had no non-engineering presence. That was our strong point.
Find out on LinkedIn, reach out to them, say that this is what we're building, we would love to have you, or just have a chat with you.
To build a personal brand on LinkedIn and build that credibility around our space. That definitely helps. Hey everyone, welcome to episode number 3 at MBA Conversations with Smith. I'm really excited to start today's episode because I have founders sitting right next to me of my cohort Masters Union. Really excited. It's going to be an episode filled with practical learnings, entrepreneurial adventures, mistakes, risk, success stories, and a lot of learnings for you, specifically if you are interested to start during your MBA. So stay tuned till the end of this episode. We have Upamanyu and Shouradeep today. Both of these young boys started their own company at the age of 19 named Collegeshala, raised a multi-million-dollar round for that company. Then that company was acquired by Lecture Notes, and then they raised around $2.5 million for Lecture Notes, and now they are here at Masters Union doing their MBA, looking for an exponential growth, and really excited to have you both here. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
So, the first question which comes to my mind is that it takes a lot of risk to even think about starting by the age of 19, wherein your parents, your relatives, everybody wants you to study, to have a secured career, finish your UG, then go for your masters, etc. So, what was that one, I would say, the thing which changed your perspective and you did not want to go the normal route and want to take risk and maybe start up?
So, both of us have been friends for like 18 plus years now, from nursery in school. And I think both of us have always had this thought that we want to do something different. So we started a month club in our college, in our school rather, made it the best, won several accolades, started something called .com site, which was a microblogging platform back in 2017. So always we wanted to do something different. And whenever you want to do something different, there has to be a risk-taking angle to it. So that push, I would say, was always there, and it kind of accelerated when we were entering college. And somehow it felt that if we don't do it now, it's going to be never. Okay. And we honestly, we took a plunge that way.
So, Shaurya, was it the cultural beliefs and the kind of upbringing in your family, did that affect your decision here?
Not really, because my father is a police officer, my mom is a homemaker. So no one really did business in my family. I think it was just the environment then. An academy was being built, Flipkart was already big, and we wanted to do something of ourselves. Right? So that's why the first idea at .com site came into being. We thought, let's do something for the students. We were always around, we were very curious. We were always looking for what is happening around us. So we thought, let's launch something that would help someone like us. That's how we created the microblogging site. But I think it was just us planning to do something. We were always very actionable. So I think that is what we believed in, and we just took the plunge.
Okay, wonderful. So, how did this problem arise? Because, as students, there are a lot of things which you might be observing. So, why did you decide this one particular problem?
So, essentially, I'm an engineer by degree. We normally see that in India, there's a lot of resources for people belonging to science or engineering. There are too many platforms, too many JEE prep platforms, post-college prep, GATE platforms. But if you focus on the non-engineering side, the BCom, the BBAs and so on, there's absolutely no resource. There was no resource.
So could you give us some numbers like?
Yeah. So at any active time, there's like 4.5 million engineers in India, engineering students across all 4 years. While there are 22.4 million non-engineering students present. And Shouradeep was one of them. He's a BCom graduate. Okay. So he felt this issue that, I'm going to several tuitions, I'm paying a lot of money there. But what are people who are less privileged, or people who stay away from urban centers? In India, especially among the non-engineering fields, majority of the colleges, they're not present in urban centers. It's spread across. Right. You'll have tier 2, tier 3 level students there. So what of them? And that point of time, I was involved in the ecosystem. So we again reconnected. Let's again give a plunge. The idea came, and surprisingly, in research, we found that it's a very pressing problem. There were a few models trying to do something, obviously, but there was no end result. Education truly was not democratized, which is one thing that is hyped in India.
Got it. So, Shaurya, you coming from a BCom background, how did you sort of resonate with this idea And I'm sure being a non-engineering student, you might have experienced some problems by yourself.
Right.
That would have escalated this particular situation.
Right. So I was in a government college. So most of my classmates were from rural parts of Jharkhand, Bihar, and West Bengal. So the basic problem was, if me being from a middle class family, I was facing problems like buying books which will be obsolete after 6 months, and you have to pay like 3,000 rupees per semester to just buy those 5 books. So how would those students who are coming from the rural parts of these states, how would they actually afford them? So the basic idea was like, let's do something for them. How can I make their lives much more easier? Let's just because in undergraduate studies mostly uses read to pass. So in India we have to accept this. So the basic idea was, as a BCom student, you don't know much of you cannot go to Geek for Geeks. You don't know these websites, right? So there has to be a one-stop solution. You go, you search for your subject, you search for university or college, and you get whatever you need, and you can just pay as low as 20 rupees and pass an exam. Like that was it. That was the idea. So I thought, let's get the most credible faces in your state or in your university, and those are the professors who create content. And we got these professors onboarded, and that's how they used to give us content. And these students, on the other hand, used to pay 20 rupees. They used to get a chapter, they used to get a book, and that's it. And we made up the first platform. Collegeshala was so easy to navigate. So it was like a search bar, just like Google, and you'll get results, and you'll just click on it and read it. That's it.
Okay, perfect. That's quite inspiring. So let's assume that a lot of our viewers are pretty young in age and they want to start up, right? So while Shaurya has explained the entire business model of how Collegeshala used to work, but how did you actually start approaching the professors? How did you convince them to come down to your platform? Because professors take years and years to make these theories and explain to the students. So that is their, I would say, bread and butter. So how did you convince them? How did you convince the students to come on your platform? Actually, how did you make this platform? That's the most important part.
So in India, you have to understand, the tech professors, they're pretty tech savvy, then they're famous, somewhat famous. You'll have people who are teaching GATE in certain institutes, people who are giving coachings. Engineering is overhyped in India. But if you go to the non-engineering streams, the BComs, the BBAs, professors there are known among a certain close circle. We identified this problem. There's a lot of regionality and there's a lot of close limits. So suppose in Delhi, someone's teaching in what sector of Gurgaon, he's known only there. There's no way his teachings, his notes reaching to the far end of Gurgaon or maybe Delhi. We identified this problem very early.
How did you identify this?
So we did a market survey. We talked to several students, we talked to several teachers. We wanted to understand what's the similarity, what's the star power of an average teacher there, what's their tech savviness. Once we understood all of these factors.
How much time did this entire thing take, the market research?
It's almost 3.5 months of survey. So we started surveying somewhere around October 2019. We surveyed till December. From January we started building the platform and onboarding professors, and we launched in April 2020. So contrary to a popular belief, it's not just you go and random and break stuff. You move fast. I accept that, but you understand stuff. You have to pave your way ahead. You can't just rush through.
Correct.
Everything takes time.
Yes.
And beautiful things take time.
Perfect. Yeah.
So you talk to these professors, you make them understand that, sir, today you have a very limited reach. What if I take you to 5 more clusters? That's more student power for you. That's more fame for you. And who doesn't want to be a superstar in our country?
Right.
So you appeal to that. You get them on the platform. You make them understand the impact. Your student base or your virtual student base suddenly goes from 200 students to 2,000 students. That's a 10x increase, almost immediate. We showed them the potential. We got them on the platform. We ensured there was proper IP protection on the platform. So the notes didn't get downloaded. They couldn't get screenshotted. They were not distributed away. So that that appeals to the sense of ease. And post that I clicked.
And what did you do with the students to get them onboarded?
So we had a very strong campus ambassador program. We had people in every influential college in the city. For each city we were targeting. They had spread the word. And even this kind of a business is not a poster boy business. It's not about if we were able to push the guy who came first. It's about what's the average rate of passing if people started studying from college. We spread the word there. We started simple comparison that so Collegeshala's business model, I would say, was 20 rupee per note. A note is a chapter.
Very cheap.
So we made it very clear, you want to have some tea, why not buy a note? You wanna smoke outside your college, why not rather invest on a note?
Okay.
You wanna go to your teacher and pay 2,000 a month, why not pay 20? So this clicked with the audience, I would say. And post that, honestly, to a certain extent, we have had organic registrations in Collegeshala, and it went to somewhere around 100 key users in a very short time, somewhere around 8 to 7 months of organic marketing.
Just to add to that, like, because we got professors on board very early, and it started with my college. So people who are actually starting up, you should start where you are.
Right.
If you're in a campus, if you are in like with 4 guys, how to get that first customer from those 4 guys? That should be the first GTM, right? So we onboarded professors; they got us students. When you
Right.
see your own professor on a platform,
You would
they
come.
you'll come to your platform. They actually tell ki, boss, you can just go to this platform and buy my notes. So this tremendous word of mouth in this digital era was something that we actually cracked, and that's how we got
In, the,
these many users.
in even lecture notes, I would say, lecture notes, we have seen colleges where just because engineering is a star teacher business, well, because we have captured a star teacher, got him or her onboarded, the entire college ends up buying a subscription a day before the exam. We have seen this kind of phenomenon.
Okay. I think this is a very ideal scenario of using the pain point of a student and actually converting into a proper business. So awesome. So Shoura, tell me, was this your core network which helped you maybe navigate very fast? Because I mean, I'll tell you, even from in my college, right, we were happy to pay even $500 for XYZ notes on a day before the exam, right? So I mean, the idea was definitely there and scalable as well. But you guys did it at a very fast pace, and that was such a young age. So was it the network or was it your hardcore sales skills? What came into the picture?
I think the latter, because I was a normal student, because at Upamanyu was still famous in his college, but I was a very normal student.
He's still famous here.
Yeah, exactly. So that's right. So I was a very normal student. I think it was just to get the first 2 professors, the first 3 professors onboarded, and then actually the sales skills kicked in.
Okay.
So you have to pitch them, you have to make them understand how they can get us 550 more students and maybe earn some money. So referral, something that Upamanyu came up with was, we need to tell these professors that this is some amount of money you can make if you just recommend, get us some students. So that's how we started pushing, and then word spread. So from one college to other college, and it was that fast. But I think one thing that we did, which was great, was some physical distribution of content. We went to colleges. It was COVID, so when the lockdown used to be lifted, we used to go to these colleges physically and used to distribute notes for free. And that's how we got it. So one note, if somebody is getting it for free, they used to distribute it with their friends, and if they liked it, they used to come to Collegeshala. We used to also, this is again something came from Upamanyu, we used to put QR codes in front of cyber cafes, in front of tea stalls, in front of colleges. They used to scan it and just to see what is Collegeshala.
So Shoura has been very modest. He was a topper, college topper. So that attracted the initial set of professors for him. So it was very clear, because Shoura was a topper, so he had the right kind of academic connect to begin. Honestly, first 15-20 teachers were just his teachers and then knowing them. So that helped us scale. And for me, since I was in the ecosystem, the initial set of mentors, initial set of investment connects, people who would want to negotiate on our behalf. So I would say network building becomes important here, because we brought the 2 ends together. I knew the ambassador scene out there. So we integrate. And that, because आपके पास कुछ बनाया होता है ना, आप उसको plug in करते हो, तो rapid scale हो जाता है.
So yeah, you were only 19. How did you build those connects?
So I would say, honestly, one thing I've seen, when you keep network building focus, actually, your network is never built. Because I honestly feel you start sounding artificial.
Right.
You're trying to please somebody. So for us, it was, for Shoura, he was a topper. He interacted with teachers in the colleges. Obviously, they loved him because of that. A lot of students were in of him in his college. For me, my entire school life, I've been going out and winning a lot of competitions. So I started knowing students from there. So this kind of network spread. Similar in my college, the so-called popular factor. So the more I was always very talkative. I'm still am, and I like talking to people. So the more people I talk to, so for him it was, I know XYZ sir, let me call them, and XYZ sir, just because it's Shouradeep, let me call XX, YY and ZZ.
Okay.
And for me it enabled, okay, these 8 colleges. I know A, B, C, D, and E, right? Let me ask you if there's an F who knows the other college. So be very natural. I would say be very natural. And actually, if you're talking or interacting with someone, try to maintain a relationship there. Don't be transactional. Don't be artificial.
I think one of the very good takeaways is that networking can never be with a specific agenda, because the minute there is an agenda, it becomes artificial fake, and the other person can sort of cash
Right.
it directly. Okay. So, Shouradeep, tell us about the tech part. Now we have understood how you got the customers, how you convince your professors, and you build your initial few users. But how did you do? Because I don't think anybody of you comes from the tech background.
Right. So that was a great challenge because the first website was on Wix.
Okay.
Yeah, we all do that. So, but after I think we had something around 1,500, 2,000 students on Wix platform also. Then Upamanyu got us our third co-founder, Fazal. He was Upamanyu's college mate. So he was a tech guy, and also like he was very, very ambitious and very like he had a huge vision. He's building something in AI today. So we got him, but the designs, like user journey, everything was mapped by us. Like user, and we were very clear that only in 3 clicks the user needs to reach. They need to reach the node. That was the whole idea.
Mm-hmm.
So we created designs like that. We saw an academy's platform. We saw Vedantu's platform. We saw how the user journey is happening there. So it was like they will create a profile, they'll search, they'll go to the node. That's it. We created designs on pieces of paper. We drew and then we used to put colors on there. Like let's use yellow, orange. That eventually became our color. So I think that was first. And second was everything needs to be super transparent. Like for a student to find their notes, it has to be that quick. So if you want to save a note, then will not be five clicks to just go to that note which you have saved earlier. It has to be in 2 clicks. So every time you're doing something, we need to reduce the resistance, right? So that was a clear idea that we need to build the tech around this. And then Fazal was like he was too like he understood that very fast. And so that's how we did it. Like from wallet, like for we need to convince the teacher to even make them understand that if you make 50 rupees, it will be visible to you. Like every transaction will be so transparent. Like you can actually ask. We used to tell this in a sales pitch. You can ask one of your students to buy a note, and you will see that money being reflected in your wallet. And building that, but keeping it so clear, keeping it so transparent for those professors, for those students, that if you can just pay money, because when you're on a new platform, there are a lot of trust issues that we face.
Correct.
Even if paying 20 rupees, like where is that 20 rupees going? What if I don't get a note? So I think creating videos around that, creating like small instruction tutorials around that on the platform itself was something that was like really revolutionary for us. And I think on the tech part, Upamanyu can add something, but I think Fazal did it, and we are not techies.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say we were very product focused, and that reflected on the product. Fazal brought up the architecture, the tech scale, and we would also say we hustled our way out in the tech because our initial set of developers were people we had just convinced to work for us, with an expectation that someday when we get funded, we will pay, and we did pay them enough after that.
Okay.
But I think for young founders, you have to hustle your way through, man. Matlab, if you don't do that, that's your loss. Another fun fact here, when he's mentioning we did the studies, one of the platforms we even referred to was lecture notes actually. And we never expected that, a year later we would be acquired by them only.
Wow, that's amazing. We'll go to the lecture note story soon in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So, just a couple of last things with Collegeshala. How is the unit economics, or what is the breakdown? Any one of you can take this.
So, in Collegeshala, it's simple. You take a pie. So, the way you do these kind of pricing, once you take a pie, 100%, 20% to content, 20% to marketing, 20% sales, 20% tech, 20% operations. For us, the aim was that we would have to only take care of the tech cost and the platform fee, the operational fee. Ideally, we shouldn't have to take care of the content cost and the marketing cost, which is the goal. So we priced every note as a chapter at 20 rupees. On average, a subject was of 10 chapters somewhere around, so it's 200 rupees. So the aim is if someone purchases something of 200 rupees from us, our effort in that should only be 40% at max.
Okay.
Which is why we did a 60-40 sharing model. 60% went to the professor, 40% went to us. Essentially because in 90% cases the professor was bringing on the platform. In cases where the professor was not bringing it, there was the ambassador. There was the 20% from the professor's side which was going to the ambassador. So very clear business model, and a lot of people would start commenting on the video, loss making hai. So yeah, it's loss making because the logic is once you reach a critical mass of students for a certain amount of monthly transactions, you hit profitability.
Right.
Because as we have learned recently in managerial accounting, your contribution margin covers your fixed costs.
Right.
So it's a distribution based business. It survives only on volume and scale.
Yeah, there are terms like CM profitability, CM1 profitability,
Yeah,
CM2
CM1.
profitability.
So essentially CM1, I'll give a quick course. CM1 is basically where your Operation, where your cost of goods sold, it's redacted. CM2 is essentially where your performance marketing cost, your direct marketing cost somewhat should get subtracted. CM3 essentially is your brand costs, brand marketing costs also get subtracted. CM3 profitable means now, boss, you can grow.
Yeah, it's almost as good as EBITDA then.
Yeah, almost.
Perfect. So I think we have covered fixed variable costs, CM1, CM2, and operating profits. Great. Okay, so Shaurya, my next question is, how did you? So this entire journey was, I'm pretty sure, was super difficult and was fun at the same time.
Yeah.
How did you approach the investors with this when you were only 20, right? And I mean, I would let's assume that credibility in terms of pedigree was difficult, and a lot of things which IITians and IIM students and let's say masters degree students might get easily would be difficult. So
Right.
how did that happen?
So again, a funny story. So we got funded within 6 months of launch. We got funded in November 2020. So the story goes like, so I asked Upamanyu was always like, we need to make some money before we go to the investors. And actually, the day I reached out to an investor, we were something around 11,000, 12,000 students, and we did revenue of something around, I think, we touched 1 lakh maybe maximum, right? And I asked him like, are we ready now? And it was at some 11:45 p.m. at night, like, some May. And Upamanyu was like, go ahead and like write a message. So we actually wrote a message to an investor who was a lead investor at Lecture Notes. So yeah, he's a big guy. He's a CEO of a Chinese-based company, right? So I just texted him on LinkedIn that this is what I'm building. This is my current numbers. Can I just get some guidance from it? That was my LinkedIn message. I can show it to you.
Which all numbers did you add? Just
like user number, how much money we made, and how much we are growing month on month.
Okay.
Only these, and the message was only 3 lines. So you need to understand how crisp it needs to be, because nobody will read a one pager, right? So, and I got a reply then and there within 5 minutes, and next day we went on call. So I think, and on call I think it was because, we were not from IITs, we were not from IIMs. I think the conviction with which we spoke, the ideas that we had, the growth hacks that we already implemented, the kind of bonding we shared, right? The platform that we built, user retention, how users are actually reacting to the features we have introduced. Those are few things that we were talking about when we were talking to the investor. That is something that actually instills trust in the investor, because that is what that person is looking for. Because at that early stage, you're at just a lack of revenue. Like maybe it was not revenue, it was I think MRR, right? So then the investor was like, fine. He was ready to look at the business, and that's it. We pitched in some money. We asked for very little. Actually, we asked for only 50 lakhs, right, to scale, because we wanted to scale, because we were in West Bengal. Upamanyu wanted to scale in Jharkhand, and it was a clear instruction. We want to scale it to Jharkhand because CEO saab jo bolte wohi hum karte, right?
How do you decide the 50 lakh amount?
So the whole idea was how much money was being spent in West Bengal, the number of students. Jharkhand was a similar market. We just multiplied it. That's it. Like it was easy.
It's your net cash requirement.
Yeah.
आपका revenue इतना है, इतना contribution margin you're getting, इतना cost cover करना है. That is the cost you actually need from your investor.
Correct.
Yeah.
Very good.
So you're focusing on Jharkhand.
Yeah, but Jharkhand was similar markets.
So did you find anything unique in Jharkhand, or
I think
was it the geographical proximity?
No. So geographical proximity. Also, we were established in Bengal. Bengal nodal colleges and Jharkhand nodal colleges had a similarity. So had a similarity in the curriculum because of geographical proximity.
Okay.
And also, personally, we were able to find enough contacts there, so we could tap in. See, very honestly, we all have been studying a lot of management strategies.
Yes.
When you do your business, it's very simple. If you know somebody or some place or something there, you go for it. You don't apply some huge formula to that and find something.
It was like we were only targeting government colleges, small colleges. Like colleges like Narsimundi is actually like big. They have a structure to it. But colleges like colleges under University of Calcutta, which are government backed, under University of Kolhapur in Jharkhand, they're government backed. So there are less number of professors, more number of students. Like as you mentioned, 44 by like almost 22.4 million, right? So that's how we went to Jharkhand, then Bihar actually. So I think that is what we pitched, and we had immense trust. So we had a thesis around it. Like these are the kind of students we want to target. These are the kind of colleges we want to target. These are the kind of subjects we want to target. So I think for a founder to have a thesis around how they are building something, how they want to proceed is something that actually gives immense trust to the investor. Right? If you don't have a thesis around it, then you don't have a plan around it actually. So that's how we pitched in for 50 lakhs. We ended up raising 2 crores from that way. So yeah, that's how the investor pitch went there, and the conversation went on. So now we had to make financial projections, which Upamanyu did, to just tell them how we are going to spend this money, how we are going to get to the next course, next college, next university. So you have to. So if you don't have immense clarity on that, you won't be able to pass those rounds, because that is also like an interview.
Right.
Right. So May or April we reached out to that investor. It took us 4 to 5 months, and then November we had the cash. So that's how it happened.
That's pretty fast. So,
Yeah.
Upamanyu, he's talking about financial projections, and being a student, how did you learn what all has to be included there, and how did you decide what all has to go there?
I was in the ecosystem for some time, even from
Mhm.
Collegeshala. I was trying to do something. I had a set of mentors. I was working with an incubator also. So I would say the करते करते सीख गया thing.
अच्छा.
So I kept doing it for years. So I could somewhat get it right. And when Collegeshala came, obviously I knew the right references to put in. Obviously it was still horrendous compared to what I can make today. I eventually made for the $2.5 million raise, or what we are learning today, honestly, in
Right.
the modeling class. But yeah, that's so. I would say when you're young, the disadvantage is there's a lot of pedigree issues. We are refused by a lot of investors because they were like, you're just 19. I don't think you'll be able to scale enough. On the positive side, people forgive your mistakes also very easily.
Yeah, that's true.
They're like, the mere effort that these guys could come up with a projection was more important than coming up with perfect projections. So that's an advantage every young guy has, and you use it, man. Use it like anything.
Okay. I think that's the biggest takeaway from this conversation, that be okay to take risk. Learning will keep on happening.
Yeah.
So I think pretty inspiring story for both of you all. Alright, so we spoke everything about Collegeshala.
Yeah.
How did your journey at Lecture Note start? And even before that, so you would be facing a lot of competition in the market. The buzz spreads quickly. So how did Lecture Note sort of reach out to you, or you reached out to Lecture Note? What was that story, and how did you convince them?
Our lead investor, Mr. Mishra, was already investor of Lecture Notes. So, and essentially Lecture Notes was a part of our competitive research also. It was a much bigger company when we started. So, and the other players in this space would be Sudoku, Course Hero. There's a player called EduRev, and there's a player called NotesGen, and GoSeeko. GoSeeko started much later than us, couldn't capture much of market share that way. NotesGen started very early, 2017, but couldn't sustain in a certain way. Sudoku is a market leader outside India. Course Hero is a $3.6 billion startup currently.
Okay.
So these were the competitive spirit, but coincidentally in India, no one could capture a fair market share. I would say essentially because no one could understand much of the education scene here. The regionality of content needed, the difference in similar topics across universities, which is something we researched on.
So was it, the founding team of these companies were not pretty much relevant to the Indian context?
Essentially for Sudoku and Course Hero, what I believe is that they are built more for a global audience, and they didn't care much about going into Bharat, I would say. NotesGen had a problem in becoming too much of an aggregation platform with no quality checks, which is I think what resulted in an issue for them. For GoSeeko, they were trying to do what we were doing, but instead of outsourcing content or getting it from the community, which is where our cost model sustained, they were more of a internal content creation mechanism. That's the way they took, and that is damn costly. So everyone had some kind of shortcomings. For us also, since it was community, there were some quality issues which we had to correct later. There was a supply that had to be stimulated to a certain extent. Everybody.
Okay.
So coming back to Lecture Notes, was always a competition. The investor Shauro reached out to was also an investor of Lecture Notes, and seeing them on their portfolio is why we reached out, because it's a similar space. People invest, and Lecture Notes at that point was only doing engineering. They had no non-engineering presence. That was our strong point. So it came from the investor only directly that we were going at a very fast rate, and they would love to have us together. And obviously, we had our initial doubts. But once we talked with the team, we saw the vision to align, and it was a good deal for us. I think for two 20-year-olds to get a multi-million-dollar acquisition offer, for us it was a big deal, and we decided it was the right time to take that plunge.
So getting an offer for acquisition is one thing, and then becoming the founders there, or getting a founding position there is a different thing.
Right.
How did you crack that, and how do you negotiate that deal? Starting from putting your let's say deal across the investor, and then upscaling it to such a big level.
Right. So I think the acquisition came through because of the scale that we achieved at Collegeshala. So I think the first thing is if somebody needs to buy you, you need to have something very tangible. So I think the scale that we got in that small period of time, that aggressive scaling, that amount of users that we had, that was something that was very lucrative for them. That's why they bought us, right? Again, lecture notes. One thing about lecture notes was they only had a founder, single founder, right? And for some personal reason, he had to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And because of our aggressive scaling at Collegeshala, because of what we had achieved at Collegeshala in such a small period of time, we also became very lucrative.
Okay.
So I think making us the founders, and we had vision, we had like similar visions also, and also we knew how to crack them faster than the team that was there at lecture notes at that point of time. Or the team was super smart. We knew how to actually tweak some things and get there faster. So I think that is what we presented to the investor, and that is what he liked, and because we already had proved that in Collegeshala. So that made him decide, like, let's make them the founders and let them run the company. So I got content and ops. I was leading the academic side and the operation side of the company. Upamanyu was leading investments also, and also marketing for them. And Fazil was looking after tech and product mainly. So that's how we did it. And so after that we got a separate specific departments, and we started scaling that as we were doing it in Collegeshala. But now the focus was pan India, right? Because at lecture notes they were already very famous. Lecture notes already had 1 million users, right? And peak lecture notes had almost 700k users monthly. Like MAU was 700k. So now the scaling went much more aggressive. The plans were much more elaborate. So that is what we already had, right? So that's why we were the best fit.
Got it.
So that's why. Yeah.
Fair enough. So when we talk about, let's say, scaling from Collegeshala to lecture notes, I'm sure the monthly active users is just one metric. There would be a lot of things which would be different in terms of culture, in terms of the process, the tech, the team which you were running there versus here. How did the team accept you, and how did you sort of fit into that culture? Because that is very difficult, especially at your age when you are 2021. And I'm assuming, let's say, the average age of the team at lecture notes would be around 30 plus only.
So essentially, there was a big shift for us. We were leading with 20-25 people in Collegeshala, and when suddenly going to lecture notes, at our peak we had somewhere around 120 team members with us. So scale was obviously different. And again, in Collegeshala, initially we had hired some of our friends, then we had done some senior hires, but they were relatively 25, 26 at max. In lecture notes, we had VPs. We had VPs who had 18 years of industry experience. We had very senior managers.
18 years.
Yeah. So average, and for Shouradeep's team, because they were mostly academicians, ex-professors, people like this, the average went up to somewhere 35, 38. For me, for the sales team, it was pretty young people, 26, 27-ish. For the marketing teams, the strategy, the investment teams, it obviously varied. So I think, when you lead such big teams, first thing you have to understand is acceptance. Acceptance of you yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Be very clear that you, just because you are in this position, because of a certain amount of work and effort, you don't know everything.
Mm-hmm.
And rather be very mindful that you know nothing.
Okay.
Your work, so honestly, for every young founder out there, your work is essentially stakeholder management. You have very bright people, you should have very bright people with you, people who are heck smarter than you. Your work is just ensuring they're all working with each other and with you.
Right.
Stakeholder management.
Right.
Manage them right, everything works. So essentially that's what we did. We were not the ones who were pushing, this is the idea that we took. Ideas came from everybody. It was on us to ensure that everyone kind of aligned with what was right at that situation. Obviously that also is a gut feeling, notion, some data, and some of it didn't turn right also.
Mm-hmm.
But getting everybody aligned to that, appealing to everybody's conscience, everybody's ego management to a certain extent. We kind of tried doing that, succeeded to a certain extent.
How did you try doing? Ego management itself is a very difficult thing to handle. So
suppose you're a very senior person. So I should never tell no to anything about to you directly, or shouldn't just shoot down any idea. Let's nurture it, let's discuss it. And the way I see it is every negotiation is either me convincing you or you convincing me. That's how it ends. Every discussion ends that way. So my job was convincing these set of folks in the right aligning to the company's interests, ensuring that they nurture their own ideas. I am not looking imposing. So I see all of this as an art of conversation.
Okay.
Crack that small joke, keep the atmosphere light. Don't act high and mighty in front of them. People accept. People accept when they feel that they're way above you. And like keep it that way, bro. No one's taking your chair, no one's taking your equity. There's no harm in being a lesser, being a greater human being in that room.
Right.
Be accepted.
I think your soft skills matter a lot. It is very well said that if you're the smartest in the room, you should change the room.
So we hired also skills can always be taught to at least till a mid-management level. But soft skills, the way the person appeals, the way the person talks, his psyche, mindset, that matters a lot more, especially in these kind of hirings.
So, Upamanyu has touched the topic of hiring. So, how did you? What was the hiring process? Also, I'm sure you guys would have a good amount of involvement there. So, a 21-year-old boy to hire someone who comes with 18 years of experience.
Yeah.
So, how was the hiring process like? So, how did you structure your questions, and what all elements apart from the technical abilities the guy would have, the behavioral quotient of the person? So, how did you analyze that?
Right. So, as what Upamanyu mentioned was that gut feeling. So that is what I was talking about, the thesis. As a founder, when you have a thesis, when you know what to do, that is when actually the candidate whom you're interviewing, that guy also has confidence in you. He knows this, right? So as a young founder, you won't know anything, but you should know what you're doing, right? So in an interview, those questions, those behavioral questions, that has to be around that. That has to be very clear. Like, I am planning to do this. What do you think of this? Have you done something like this? So these questions. So the questions can be generic. The questions can be, I scaled from this college with this many students to this college to these many students. I did this. What do you think? Was this right or wrong? Right. Then when the person in question answers, you'll actually understand that person has clarity or not. And if that person has clarity, and when you're talking sense, that person will already understand that this guy knows what he's doing, and then they will take you seriously. If as a founder you fail to do that, you have lost the game, right? You have lost that interview also. That person will not, the candidate will not revert back, because if that candidate is technically sound, that candidate knows his or her stuff, he or she will get a job. But you won't get that candidate anymore, right? So you have to be very clear about why you're interviewing that person. These are some of the questions related to the role that that person has applied for. And this is what I am planning to do. Let me ask questions on how that person will look at it. And maybe some empirical data of lecturers you can throw at him or her and ask, tell me how this is working out. And when you actually ask such logical questions, the interview actually flows correctly. And then you can hire someone who has maybe 40 years of experience. Right? We have people who have built companies which did revenues of 100 crores. Right? So we have hired that guy.
Yeah.
So getting them on board. So that is, I think, that's the first thing. Again, on the technical part, we definitely had assignments. Right? We had assignments which we designed where we would judge their skills, how creative they are. In my team, we used to ask them to create notes, content. Right? How creative they are. Can they get a 100-pager book down to 10 pages? Right? How creatively? So maybe it's possible, maybe it's not possible. We need to understand the effort. If there is effort, if there is intent, that's the only thing that as a founder you need to check in a candidate at such an early stage.
Right.
Intent. So as Bhupesh tells, culture it studies for breakfast.
Just for the audience, Bhupesh is our marketing faculty, a super amazing teacher.
Yeah. So that intent, that culture of putting effort, pushing boundaries, that is something you have to look for in a candidate as a founder, as a young founder. I think that works out well.
Okay, wonderful. So, when you tell me something, hiring has always been a problem, not only for startups, for multiple companies. So, how did you actually draw the pull factor that people with so much of knowledge are coming to you for interviews? Obviously, the money part is there, that cannot be negotiated.
Right.
But apart from that, what is that pull factor for actually?
So essentially, people will work for you only on the basis of what kind of person you or your company is. I'm talking company as a living, breathing person.
As a brand.
As a brand. Not essentially a brand. We are a very small brand. We were a very small brand at that point. It just released. And obviously there were a lot of hiring hiccups. You go the usual way. You have consultants, you have hiring agencies, you have people pushing CVs. But then we knew what kind of a persona we wanted. We had no shame in reaching out to people for that. Okay. So because if I know somebody who will be a right fit for this role, or I'm being able to Google or search somebody on LinkedIn and get that kind of person, there's no shame in pinging out first.
Right.
Ping out, talk to that person, present your idea, present what you're building. A lot of people who came to work for us asked a very important question in the founding round. What's your vision for this? So for them,
what did you answer?
So we told them pretty simple. There's 20.4 million non-engineering students and another 5 to 6 million of engineering students undergrad. Essentially, everyone's been building for the competitive examinations, for the post-graduation options, for K-12, but no one's taking care of the undergrad students. We are here just to take care of them. We are ideally envisioning an ecosystem in the next 5 years where anything an undergrad student needs in his or her life, and including what he needs to leave that life, is essentially in one place. That's selection. We started with giving notes to people, we scaled it up to actually connecting with institutes on LMSs, trying to being able to upskill them for various roles, being able to provide them quality content, connecting them to the right kind of soft skill leads. And essentially, the plans, they're enlarged to having an internal connectivity space, a space where you can get freelance gigs and so on. So that's the vision. It's build an ecosystem, because that's the only way you survive in a volume business.
Okay.
And when these kind of people ask you questions, it makes sense. And these kind of discussions are happening even after the money part has been discussed. So then the motivation is different.
Yeah, it's a brainstorming discussion.
Yeah, so
they're also looking forward to help you grow.
You reach out, you present your concept, and then they work for you because of what you are as a person, not for the money, for the brand. Because for brand, there will be a bigger brand in the next day. They'll go there. So hiring always, if you know the persona, you know what you're trying to hire. Go out, reach out, talk to the people, and there's no point. You need to code. You need to code if you want to get the right deal, bro.
Yeah. Right. Okay, I think with clarity, a lot of things automatically will be sorted.
Right.
Okay.
Just to add to that, but also when you're reaching out to a senior guy, so today we are taught how to write on LinkedIn, what to write, pushing content. So Upamanyu and I, we used to write a lot on LinkedIn. Also Fazal, our third co-founder, was very famous on LinkedIn. Right, we used to write about education, we used to write about how we are changing education. So when you reach out to someone, a senior guy at an academy to join us, so they used to check out our profiles and see what do we think of the industry, how it is evolving. So I think creating content around it, right, actually having an opinion around it, when you're having a discussion with a senior guy at at a big tech, so that content actually works out. So I think you have to try so that your company becomes a brand, even if it's not a brand. You have to try to make yourself a brand. Like, this person knows about education. We can talk 15 minutes with him or her about education, and then you can actually attract great talent. And then the marketing part is always there. Like, you actually pay someone to run Google ads. But apart from that, I think content. Apart from that, reaching out. As a young founder, nobody knows your company. If you have money, if you are actually hiring, if you want the best guys, find out on LinkedIn, reach out to them, say that this is what we are building, we would love to have you, or just have a chat with you. I think then you can just impress them.
I think usually very well said, and a lot of people are receptive. At the age of 50, they're looking forward to give back to society. So I think the bounce rate will not be as high as we all anticipated to be.
Rather I found people in the 35 years of age, 40-45 to be more energetic compared to the 26 or 20-year-old team members we had.
Okay, wonderful. So I think one takeaway would be that it is very important for all of us at this age to build a personal brand on LinkedIn and build that credibility around our space. That definitely helps.
So contrary to what a lot of people push as thought leadership, it's not that. It's just show what you know. Then people interact with people, because how do you engage with someone? You talk about common concepts. Like LinkedIn is a space. Start speaking about what you think you know, or what you analyze or you believe. And you'll connect with people who have similar beliefs.
Correct.
Or want to, want to have a contrary opinion even that's a good way to talk to somebody. So yeah, like creating a personal brand any day, very important.
Okay. So I think we have covered a lot about hiring. Let's move down to the business operations and scalability. So how was the shift like? And when I say shift, your day-to-day work. So how did that differ from what you were doing initially and now at Lecture Notes? Maybe certain software integrations or certain automations which you had to, get your hands on.
Right. So at Collegeshala, it was very like we were always there on ground. Like me and Upamanyu, we were like doing market visits and all. But at Lecture Notes, the thing was a bit more automated because the platform was much more mature. The market, the users were already coming to the platform, and not much effort was going into marketing because we till I think 2021 end. Well, sorry, 2022 end. We never spent a penny on marketing. Right. So I think
That is a very big statement. Like no money on marketing.
So we didn't need to spend. The word of mouth for both Collegeshala as well as Lecture Notes was very high. So we actually started spending after we raised the 2.5 million. Before that, 1.2 million users was essentially maybe 2 offline events where we just we sent people to go and speak about Lecture Notes. And then it was just seniors telling juniors, bro, you need to call, you need to, need additional help in exam, need to read, need to revise, just go to Lecture Notes.
I think that's a very big pull because nowadays you see a lot of startups burning investors' money on marketing, but you guys actually sort of figure that way out. Kudos to both of you.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's because we were the teaching. Being students and building for students has a great advantage.
Right.
If suppose 30 or a 40-year-old starts building something for students, it's very difficult for him or her to connect on a mental level with that kind of an audience. For us, it was like anything we do, we'll first check, will we accept it as students? If yes, then it's good to go.
So if you actually go to Lecture Notes Instagram account, we have a reel which has more than 3.5 million views, and it was totally organic. Not even a penny was spent on that. So that's how we cracked it. Like we knew what was happening. We knew which kind of videos they might like, which kind of content they might consume. So we just did that, and that came out of sheer simple Google surveys. And we used to do survey every week, and that is something that I inculcated.
Because we knew people, we were students.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just us putting a form out to our friends, bro. Could you just fill it up, and help your friends fill it up.
Right.
That's it.
So, what kind of questions did you cover in the survey, and what was the end goal? Like, let's take an example because a lot of, let's say, people who are interested into starting up, they have to do primary research.
Yeah.
So, let's take a quick 5-minute module on how do you do primary research, the objective, and the kind of survey questions which you had.
So,
any one of you can take this.
Firstly, obviously, you so ideally first start asking questions on the problem. Do you face a similar problem? Describe it. Give a small description. Do you face it? What's the scale of you facing it? Because a problem may be a nagging itch, and it may be a bleeding wound. You have to understand that. Then what's the volume of the problem? You have to understand whether how many people are facing it. So questions around it. Then the most important part comes the solution. That if this would have been there, would you have been interested? And up till this, I've seen a lot of startups cover. What they don't do after that, and what Bhupesh sir teaches us in his first lesson, is are you willing to pay for that kind of a solution? That is an absolute must. Now, when I say these questions, these are not little questions.
Okay.
So, in survey, the trick is you don't make the customer biased. Ask him questions to eke out answers. Don't ask direct. You can never. So, for example, if you tell me, would I want a chair which would just take me everywhere in the building? I would say yes.
Yeah.
Will I buy it? Absolutely not. Do I actually need it? Absolutely not. Every startup asks the first questions. I've seen rarely people ask the second and third. And the second and third is where you understand this is a bad idea, scrap it.
Correct.
So questions essentially for us are always about what kind of solution you would prefer. But then again, break it down. Indirectly asking that, what was their reaction to it? How much they're willing to pay for that kind of a solution? What's the ideally the frequency of this kind of an interaction? So for example, if you get notes online, you will get from a teacher. Would you read it only a day before exam? When do you want to study? When do you study before your exam? Yes. Surprisingly, majority answer we got in a nationwide survey was 15 days before the exam.
Oh, I think that's a lie.
So that's 90% of that 90% of undergrad who are telling we study 15 days before the exam. And from that became very clear to us that all the campaigns we would run in the next 4 months essentially would have no essence. For us, that 15 days is more important. So 20 days before, you start your campaigns, hard it and do proper call to actions. It's because that's when you're looking for a solution, right? Otherwise, when you're not looking for a solution, you're offered a solution, it won't trigger. It essentially doesn't trigger the purchase.
Got it.
So the question of yours, like what we got, like what got automated at lecture notes, we used to read these matrices before 20 days of an exam at a university. The user growth, the number of users coming to the platform used to grow. So we used to read this like every day or like 3 to 4 hours. We used to give to these matrices. That user is actually coming, they're spending more time, they're spending 2x of the time they spend normally. They're reading more notes, they're reading 3 more notes every day. So that is how we used to push them. That is how we used to give more notes in their suggested column. Right? We used to take all these behaviors. We used to have actual meeting just to think about so let's say Delhi University is having exam next week. Which notes are actually trending? Let's push those notes. Let's actually reduce the price if it's possible. Okay. How can we actually put some money on Facebook or Google just to reach to a higher mass? So that is what we did. So reading these matrices, understanding the retention percentages, understanding where the users are spending more time, where the users are bouncing off. So we used to solve that on a daily basis. So reading these matrices, like again aligning the product team to these problems and asking them to change this if required. That is something that was really rigorous at lecture notes. That we never did at Collegeshala. Because that was a different kind of business, because the user was less and also we were all about content and just distributing it, right? But here it was a bit more mature.
We had lower manpower, more manual responsibilities.
Yes.
And our day at lecture notes, what you were asking the last question was essentially me and him would come in at office at 9:30, 10, and then all the senior managers and VPs with their set of problems would be waiting to book a slot with us. So the entire day, it's like 1 hour with product for me, 1 hour with the content development for 15 for him, 1 hour with the marketing team for him, because they want to ask him what's the next college you're doing on, based on which we have to figure out stuff. So the entire day, essentially up till like 6 in the afternoon, 6 in the evening, would be slots allocated to every department. Us sitting in the conference room, every set coming in, presenting there, us having a brainstorming. And post 6, it would be mostly us and the CXO suite meeting up and talking about the next set. That this is what have been covered, this is what the current recurring tasks are, but now what next? What next do we do? The brainstorming part. And then late at night would be just us discussing, okay, this is the direction that has been taken, now what direction is ideally we should be taking out.
So I think this way you guys are working for 24 hours a day.
Essentially, because we used to stay together. So often a lot of our discussions would happen late at night, 2 AM also. Because see, when you're doing a startup, what you have is that startup only, nothing. There's no other kind of life you have. So whatever you're doing, suddenly an idea strikes, you start discussing. There's a debate. Yeah, also a fact. Never quarrel in front of your team members. You cannot. Many of founders. So a lot of issues that maybe one of us felt wrong, that would all be bundled together, and that we'll discuss at night when there's no one else. So then we'll sort it. This is also something we learned. It's not something that came ingrained to us.
Yes.
We understood how people were perceiving stuff. So you have to adapt, and your day also adapts honestly to that.
So, Shauru, as Upamanyu rightly said that you had multiple meetings. So, do you remember any one meeting, wherein you were all stuck? Okay, like there was a discussion happening, and then the result was something else, and maybe one meeting which you learned a lot or you contributed a lot, something which our viewers would gain a lot from.
Right. I think we were launching a new service. It was an exam note that we were launching, and the entire team. So the whole idea was we need to bring these 500-page books in 30 pages. That was the whole idea of a product that we were launching, and we had to launch that in I think some 7 to 10 days, and we were already late. So I think the entire ACAD team we came in a room, and we were discussing how do we finish this. So actually, I thought I was very scared because I also didn't know that what to do now, because actually it's human labor. Like it will take the time it actually requires. So I think then the team came up with ideas. The team came up with hacks, the team came up with sources from where they could actually get content, they can actually change it, they can add newer diagrams, they can become more creative in developing this content. I think that was a day I was very proud of that team. That they were coming up with ideas with which actually we concluded that. So the content that we created was I think more than a lakh pages of content we created in less than 4 days.
Oh,
right. So I think team coming up with ideas, team coming up with solutions only. So that was the only meeting we were coming up with solutions, not problems. We knew that this was the target, this was our focus. So there are people who actually think that there will be a set framework and we have to do A, B, C, D because founder has said this is the framework, A, B, C, D, they'll just do it. right? We also had those meetings. But in this meeting, this particular meeting where we launched this, they knew the end goal and they came up with solutions. And that is when I was actually awestruck, and I was actually thinking like how they, like the culture that they have inculcated, the culture of getting things done, the culture of actually like solving for the final objective is what we were working for. I think that is what they understood, and that is what I understood in that meeting, and I learned a lot from them. So I didn't knew that mechanical engineering, a professor of mechanical engineering can actually write notes for computer science and engineering, and that person was doing that. And because there were methods that they internally decided that you can actually see these terms and you can actually create content out of that, and that would 100% make sense. So that bonding in teams actually come out when crisis.
Such crisis.
Yes.
Wonderful.
So yes, actually, crisis creates character is something that we always believed in, and that day I saw that. So yeah.
Got it. That's brilliant. I think one of my favorite examples also from today.
Yeah.
Great. So, okay, now let's delve into the business model of lecture notes, because as a lot of MBA aspirants or MBA students are watching this podcast, so why don't you tell us about the revenue drivers of your business, and you can tell us on the fronts wherein you saved cost. So I think because every time a founder has two problems, increasing revenue and decreasing the cost, right? I mean, increasing profitability. So we can cover the revenue part and cover the cost and profitability part.
So essentially, in the revenue part, lecture notes had a subscription model, unlike Collegeshala. So they were monthly and quarterly and annual subscriptions. Essentially, people would primarily come to us for subscriptions. Once in, we would now push to them several upskilling courses because we had several types. This was when the major revenues came. Apart from that, lecture notes has a LMS division where we directly do B2B sales with universities.
Okay.
Giving them the
so LMS is the software.
Learning management system. So basically, post-COVID, the craze that came over online classes, attendance management, getting content directly from there. But apart from that, we also created private repositories of content for them.
Okay.
And we also ran a business where we offered corporate training, virtual corporate training via the platform to staffing companies in Singapore. So these were the three revenue drivers of.
How did you get this connect to Singapore?
So one of our investors had sold a company there and had a good base there.
Okay.
So we initially reached out from that. This is the model we cracked. We found there was a gap and on-site training costs were pretty high. So we collaborated with a few players here. We merged the training manual, the curriculum, the trainer cost, everything, packaged it with the platform, and we offered it there. And it found a good response.
And what would be your revenue by the time you were there?
This kind of a platform, this kind of the Singapore division would honestly give us somewhere around 45-50 lakhs a month.
Oh.
It was pretty good for us because obviously the dollar rupee difference.
Yes.
So essentially we scaled that. In all three cases, for us, once the one-time cost essentially was where he was creating the content or curating it. After that, it was it was more how many guys are out there, how many strategies we cracked, and the more customer inclusion we could get.
Got it. So this is the revenue part, which preferably you've covered. Let's move on to the cost breakup, or maybe how did you optimize on cost, if not the breakup?
So on the distribution part, we were very clear. So we had campaign ambassadors, as you mentioned. So on the distribution part, we were like, we would not pay anyone who was getting us users, right? They have to get us paid users. For example, if you're giving someone like get us 10 paid users, they have to come up with, so we created slabs. So if you get 100 paid users, you'll get this money, which was commission out of the money that guy or that girl is bringing for us. Right. So this was the first thing that we did. Previously, we used to actually pay them upfront. That was a mistake that we did. But as the brand grew, we created slabs. So you make your own.
What does it need to pay them upfront?
Because just to get them hooked. Okay. That was the main issue, because after a certain point of time, when we got 50-60,000 users, just to get that next 20,000 users, we used to tell them, get us to this college. So there were some colleges, some universities which was very difficult to crack. So that is when we used to give money. Okay. And that was after funding, definitely, just to scale. So we created slabs so that whatever money they used to make for us, they get a percentage out of that. That was the first thing that we used to do. Second is, so the academy team. So firstly was mechanical engineering used to create mechanical engineering notes. CSE used to get CSE notes. Then we actually we thought, let's just give these guys only to create content around other subjects. So for example, we cracked the code of creating content for any course in India, right? So a mechanical engineer can actually create course on BA economics or
So
BA history.
could you just like, how did you crack that code?
So again,
I know that's your USP.
So a lot went into analyzing the previous year question papers, right? A lot went into analyzing previous year question papers, analyzing which are the important topics, which are the topics that came in the question papers multiple times, and then comparing it with the top universities in India, right? So that's how we got some topics, and then we did our magic. Right, so that's how we never actually, so we had a team of 20-30 people and we never actually scaled beyond that because we were creating content for other courses using that framework. So that is how we built that. So I think we saved around 1 crore. We did the maths also. We saved around 1 crore in, I think, in half yearly we saved around 1 crore just on creation of content, and in the user side we acquired more than 8 lakh users just by this slabbing. And we paid, I think, maybe 20% of the cost, like whatever we used to pay earlier, we paid 20% of the money just to get those 8 lakh students. So if we are paying maybe 1 crore to get 8 lakhs, we paid 20 lakhs. So that's what we did.
That's fair, almost 80% reduction in
yes,
the cost.
and our product team was super lean. We were only 2 guys in product team, like Fazal and the 2 associates, and they were creating like some awesome. They used to do like from user story building, from creating BRDs, creating PRDs, everything they used to do. Like they used to actually help the team to create the business requirement documents, and yeah, so that's it. So we were very clear, like this is your task, and we have to get it done using as like less number of people we can. Yeah. And then that's how we optimize.
So this is on the distribution part.
Yeah.
Now we talk about customer acquisition, and you said that you had a very organic way of reaching out to the students. So how did customer acquisition cost get reduced?
So again, so we were very organic. So we were always very organic. I think getting us, like, we got great micro influencers. That is again that came from Upamanyu. We got micro and nano influencers onboarded. So other companies were actually getting someone like Ranveer or these big influencers. And we were very clear on there is a college in Jharkhand, there is a college in Bihar, and this nano influencer with 2,000 followers is actually very popular.
So
in that.
how did you? Because the biggest problem, I've tried doing it for my own idea, but finding these people, reaching out to them is still easy, but finding these people out is very difficult.
Survey. That's it. You go to that campus, you go to that region, and just do a basic survey. Whom do you follow on Instagram? What do you do when you're like at 2 a.m. at night? Whom you are following? Like you'll get some weird answers also.
but you get the point, right? There's a set of local influencers someone follows.
Right.
Every region, every state you get the top 5 who fits your budget. Obviously, you get them together. So because the more you see, for us, we don't relate with the celebrities, but we relate with the everyday influencers a lot. A lot of the creators in this creator challenge at Masters Union, we relate to them because we've seen them, right? Or because we feel their problems are our problems.
Yeah.
So it makes sense from there.
We did celebrities also. You can go to lecturers.
Yeah, we have Durjoy Dotto doing a reel for us.
Yeah,
It's still like
it worked a little bit, but again, like someone, a student from Delhi University also did a reel for us, and it went viral. It went, I think, 600k views.
yeah, because they're more relatable.
Yeah, so that's how. So the CAC came down easily because we were just paying what 800 rupees a video.
Honestly, when we were doing the investment,
That's so cheap.
but when we were doing the investment talks, so investment talks basically happens over months. You have several meetings. In our case, there were somewhere 18 meetings before we were able to confirm. So, and every meeting something new comes up.
So now because he's talking about investor talks, so 2.5 million, that's a very big amount.
Dollars.
Yeah, definitely dollars, not INR, dollars, yes. So dollars. Now let's break this down, okay? For startup founders, even reaching out, I think I've covered a lot of it now, but how did your meetings start? And how did your conversation and meeting mature, with each meeting? What kind of metrics did you use, or the investors asked for that? And you might have had some conflicts with the investor, some here and there, and some negotiations. So let's do a to Z of the $2.5 million funding. And I think we can take turns one by one. I think that would be exciting.
Firstly, the one I was telling you is when the investor upfront asked us about customer acquisition cost, I actually had to find ways of even coming up with a customer acquisition cost.
Okay.
Because till that time we have only seen people coming on their own. So for us it was like, इसका कॉस्ट कहाँ से आएगा? लोग तो आते हैं. And essentially, it was no indirect marketing spend was so low that if I actually divided with the kind of people it came such low figure that the investor was shocked. This is so fake. I won't accept this. And this happens. It happens if you build a good organic word to mouth.
Okay.
So investment tradition normally for pre-series, I would say the stage at which we raise is either you reach out to people in your network VCs or you cold mail them. You employ some people called investment bankers, startup investment bankers.
Mm-hmm.
These people take a commission of your raise and they help you reach out to investors, do road shows, which is essentially pitching up to multiple investors. We had our set of rounds, and somewhere around June is when we met the only one with whom we'll fall in
How
love.
much time did it take to reach to that guy?
3 to 4 months of random pitching.
And how many pitches?
Somewhere around 12 to 15, I would say. We did already.
Okay.
And with this guy also, it's 18 meetings spread over like 3 to 4 months. Like eventually, the deal got inked at like after the 8th month after due diligence. So that's the gestation period. So everyone out there who is facing issue raising money and saying after a month or 15 days that I'm not able to raise, bro, the time has not yet come. it's very costly process.
At least 8 months. Okay.
So
how was the first meeting?
So first meeting is so it was my birthday, I remember. 16 June. We go out. We on a drive with some of our friends, and the phone rings, and it's one of our mentors and bankers, and I take the call. I'm like, hi, what's up? He's like, bro, there's a certain investment firm who would like to come. It's from Canada and would commit this kind of an amount to you. You should take the meeting, but it's gonna happen at 11 p.m. I'm like, what kind of a meeting happens at 11 p.m.? But yeah, the time difference there.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, let's see. Eventually, the meeting happens. I go on call, and legit, I see I see the managing partner. The first call only the initial managing partner came because he wanted to do the deal faster. It was a personal connection. So initially there was awe. Okay, so this is like the big guys look like this. Because till that point of time, we had raised 250k in Collegeshala. Lecturers themselves had raised another 300, 400k. We have only dealt with angels. We have never seen the big VC guys sitting there. So it was obviously initial 5 minutes were awe, and then obviously the started initially was sweet. We started with the pitch, we did the pitch, and then they started firing up.
Okay.
But suddenly one in the night I'm like, okay, please can we close this meeting? I don't want your money. Because the first meeting you don't go that prepared.
Right.
You go with the usual numbers and you go with the initial pitch.
So let's break this down. Maybe Shauri can also say. So what all things did you add in the pitch deck here?
Yeah.
And then maybe you can talk about the kind of rebuttal round which you had to face.
Right. So in our pitch deck, it was very basic. Like the first slide was about a single line defining your purpose. That's the goal. So if I can actually explain my company in a single sentence, that actually does the job. That was the first slide.
Okay.
And apart from that, the next slide was how we are doing it, like whom we are targeting, the target market, and actually coming down to the last market we are targeting, the 44.2 million, and also we broke it down to maybe I think lakhs also. Like we were like mentioning, this is the area we are currently targeted. Like we will move to this area, and also a proper market sizing, telling whom we are targeting, right? And then the products that we have launched and the traction in those products currently.
So what all metrics did you cover in the traction?
So traction, the first was user growth in those specific products. Overall platform, it was definitely there. Specific products, user growth, and then people spending time on that. So and total revenue was definitely mentioned, but we thought the stickiness, if we can actually show the investors the stickiness in the platform, that would be a great thing for us. So user growth, stickiness, and I think like people coming back to the platform. Somebody buying a subscription, somebody buying a note, coming back. So the repeat rate also is something that we mentioned. Only three, four matrices, just to show that what are the products, how many users are using it, and are they liking it, right? Because when the DAU or like daily active user is low, the MAU monthly active user is low, you can definitely tell this product is actually on retaining users, right? But our DAU was higher. That we needed to show. There are month on month, the day, let's say today it was 500 users, next day it was 1000, then it was 1500, 2000. MAU was increasing 43% month on month. That is something that we clearly showed in that single page. Right. After that, because it was again a pre-series round, right? So a lot depended on the founders. The founders, where we are from. Are we like, and a bit about our stories, like what we did previously. okay, what we did at Collegeshala, how lecture notes came into being, talking about that. Then an unfair advantage that we had, right? What kind of, because we were students.
Right.
Upamanyu was in what, third year of his college.
Third year.
I just graduated, right? Upamanyu was still studying. So that unfair advantage, right? We having like hands-on experience of actually being in a place like Jharkhand, West Bengal, Bihar, Odisha, Delhi. We know how students react. We showed them, like, we have data of 30,000-40,000 users who have answered in our surveys, right? So that data, that unfair advantage is something that actually gets the investor hooked. Why would they invest otherwise, right? So these 5 to 6 slides, that's it.
So I think, there's an assumption that, these decks have to be super detailed and cover a lot of things.
So there are stages. So there are sectors. Like, for example, if you're building something in, like, let's say, like you're building something in like a drone or something, it needs to be very detailed. But something in consumer, I like personally at pre-series A, I think this would work. But also times were different. Like today, I think it's much more different. But in 2021 or
22, different as in what sense?
More. It's supply demand. That time the supply of VC money is
Exactly.
more. They were rather founders choosing whom to take investment from.
Right.
Now it's a VC having founders thronging to them. Also, I feel it's a factor of a founder. Us being young founders, for us it was being able to present our concept. But if you're someone who has spent like 8-10 years in the industry, or are a serial founder, then much more is expected from you. You need a detailed tech.
Yeah.
So coming to rebuttals, so honestly, a VC reads between the numbers. They would see your growth rate, they would see your so-called
Give
beautiful
some
businesses.
examples also.
So for example, they were seeing my month-on-month user acquisition growth rate, and they were seeing my month-on-month active usage. What they were reading between the lines was, number one, the retention, and number two, then what's the amount of old users paying you and the number of new users paying you. In our case, because it's an exam business, for 12 months, or if you take an 8-month period, obviously it would be new users only paying me, right? The purane wale to 6 mahine baad aayenge, final exam ke time. So for them, it's a kind of a red flag in a certain sense. Obviously, then my rebuttal obviously came the fact of wallet share. If someone's paying me now because I have this one service, that's in my base. They're playing around with my platform. They're coming back to read. You see the usage. Don't see the transaction rate from the old users, but see the repeat usage of the nodes that they've purchased. The utility of the subscription. So VC reads a lot between lines. You have to be very clear with your fundamental formulas there. To experience VCs, you cannot tell a lot of stories. You have to be very to the point, and you have to know your stuff. And when you don't know, for me, at a certain point, I didn't know. I was very clear that this is something I don't know. But just because I don't know doesn't mean I won't figure it out. I'll figure it out. They need that confidence in you. They don't need all the answers, because if you had all the answers, or even if they had all the answers, both of you would be unicorn founders sitting currently, to be very honest. And even they don't have all the answers.
True. So, fair enough. So, how was the transition from the first to the last meeting? What all did you learn, or how was the journey like? And also, maybe the last meeting, how was that? And how did you negotiate with XYZ amount of equity, etc.? Let's not go to the numbers, but still, like, how was the negotiation like?
So, initially, it started with the meetings. We had pitches, we had grilling on the numbers. Then it came to the organizational structure. Then it came to vision. Then it came to IP we were trying to develop, which would value us to that. This is like 14 meetings. 14 or 12 meetings later is when they have a separate call with Shaur to understand his role there, what he's a separate call with Fazal, a separate call with the core team. Everyone has a separate call eventually, because they want to also see how one founder is aligned to the other. So for every young founder out there, get your story straight. If you go out there and you demean your founder saying मैं ही तो करता था वो बेकार है, वो तुमको भी बेकार ही सोचेगा. And this is very honest. I've seen this happen a lot, especially with naive founders. What they feel is कि let's show to the investor I am the man here. Bro, if you're the man, build as a solo founder. You can't build in a team. That's not how it works. So you have these calls. You grid on numbers. You're told to create a lot of documents and send back, and then see the period by which you are returning the document, because your period of reply is essentially what they understand. Okay, इसने सच बात बोली है या fake किया है. If you're taking a week for something,
very minute observation.
So, for example, if they want my usage data, I should ideally download the raw data or download a dashboard if I have and give them immediate access, right? Why will it take 8 days unnecessarily? Unless there's a major technical glitch which is explainable, or you're trying to create something sitting here. So they're very clear about this stuff. And then also, as Shaurav said, they want to very interested in a person you are. So they'll ask you about your childhood. They asked us. They asked what kind of experiences we have had so far. And since I was point manning the whole thing, I would get phone calls on hours for them, just for a chat. And obviously I can't reject that call. So at 12 a.m. I'm talking suddenly of what I am doing in college. But it's important because that's where you are vulnerable. That's where you may slip from your image. You may talk actual stuff.
Right.
So you'll always have to be very clear when you're talking to them. And try to be original, man. It pays to be original. Don't try to act up as somebody.
Yep.
Also towards the end, the last call honestly was when everything is clear, the due diligence is done, everything has been rectified on both ends. And now it's just valuation discussion. Valuation discussion, honestly, to a certain extent, is having a casual conversation with someone. Bro, this pen is worth 12k, I think. And I'm like, no, bro, 10k. And I'll be very honest, that is how. So the call was happening of them telling that I feel this is the value that should work. And basically, Shauran, everybody sitting there, while me and the guys having the conversation, he's actually WhatsApping me after calculating, bro, this is the valuation this guy is giving. To be very honest, that's how it happened. So basically, hypothetically, a conversation going, no, I feel, 20% of the company is worth it. And the team is backtracking, okay, 20% of 2.5 million, okay, this is the valuation this guy is claiming at this point. And I'm pitching, and I'm seeing that pitching, but no, I feel 10. And honestly, how he closed the deal.
Yeah.
At one point I was like, X is my lucky number because my birth date plus adds up to that. I think we should close there. Actually, we did.
And that was.
Yeah, the guy laughingly agreed, and that's a huge jump in valuation just because of that. I'll be very honest.
Again, things have changed now.
So it's much more serious.
Much more serious. Differently today. But again, it's about the environment, like how things are going. But again, valuations are hocus pocus, right?
So,
it's discussion, negotiation.
How did you get the base number in the valuation? Let's do some maths.
You see your revenue, right?
Yeah.
You see your gross marketplace value. You deduct your initial partnership out. You take your take-home revenue, what your platform is making. You minus your cost of goods sold, operating costs, etc. And you see what's the variable, what's the contribution margin you are making.
Right.
You see your EBITDA, what's coming. These are the base numbers.
And also user growth. User growth is huge.
It's a story.
Yeah.
For every startup it varies. For some it's a revenue multiplier. For some it's the annual revenue opportunity based on your user base that you might hit.
Was your user base is also growing with
So for us we hit 2 million users.
Yeah.
So 1.8 ideally at the time of investments. So 1.8 users, out of which every month there's like 600 or 500k active. So if 500k are active and this is the average people transacting now, then if this is the X number of increase in the transacting, then what is the money this company can make
in the next 5 years?
In the next 5 or 3 years, and then what it's making now? What's the growth? And what's the revenue multiplier for you? Valuations in early stage are essentially discussions. Even if I'm telling you this won't matter to you. And that is why I said, the reason my VC agreed because I maintained a relation over 8 months for him. I would call him, I would tell him things, I will give him honest updates, I will be very upfront with him. These valuations and even investments are how the conversation goes. It's vibe. The guy is trusting you with his money, man, and he's sitting in Canada and trusting you. Be very honest here. So it's how you nurture the relationship. I have seen VC conversations happen over tea, seed stage especially, where the valuation essentially, if you see future business opportunity, you get a XY consultant today and he'll tell you there's a 2,000 crore opportunity. Yeah. And we all know how it turned out for a lot of companies in that so-called market.
We did that also, by the way. The first valuation of Collegeshala was 1,200 crores. That was done by an investment banker.
How will it be also, you know?
Wow.
So, I've seen a conversation of the VC just between two guys being very realistic with each other and arrive at a number. So, for early stage, at least the stage we were in, I would be very clear, focus on your conversations. Don't talk loose. Focus on your conversations, talk right, and be upfront and honest. And obviously, valuations can also be comparison. Often it's done by, okay, an X company has raised this much at this valuation. Yeah. We are in a similar space, having a similar number of users with a similar number of activity. So this is the valuation we can command. This valuation by comparison, DCF doesn't work in startups much. Revenue multiplier, EBITDA multiplier, user multiplier. There's a multiplier for
also, there are some product ideas that you have that you are already working on that you would launch. That also works. So I think as a founder, as a young founder, I think telling the right story in the right manner, I think that is 80% of this work.
Got it.
Yeah.
I think the class we just committed, Thomas sir. Yeah. Thomas sir teaching us management strategy. Thomas sir told a very simple thing that there's an X company.
So Thomas sir, just for the audience, he's the principal consultant at Arthur Dillett.
I think he's the managing director, right?
He's a partner. Managing partner. Arthur Dillett.
Yeah.
So he told about an X company, I won't name it, who was going to IPO at somewhere around 800 million, because it was doing food delivery, I suppose.
Yes.
And ADL took it to 2.2 billion valuation in the IPO because
Almost 3x.
Almost 3x, because the story that was built is it's not a food delivery stuff, it's a bank. Why? Because they were collecting deposits upfront.
Yes.
So it's the story, it's how you sell. Uber, very famous example. A lot of people have seen Super Pumped, the web series, and it's like, so Uber being a taxi aggregator has no value. But Uber being the next level of transport. Transportation is the business, right?
Correct.
That has avenues.
Yes.
That is the new thing being. So lecture notes being a note aggregator is what anybody can build. Lecture notes as the one-stop ecosystem for 2 million students is game. Then you start seeing the big picture. Then the VC understands, if I invest an X amount tomorrow, this is the potential, man. By 22.4 billion का 10% भी market share capture कर ले रहे हो और हर एक को अगर हजार का भी साल में माल बेच रहे हो
तो अपना काम हो जाएगा. And know that you have the young India itself has the youngest demographic overall,
Yeah.
so you are capturing that. So
and one thing I would say here कि for a VC also VC के misconceptions होते हैं and not everyone knows everything about a sector. Clear that upfront. For our VC, because they were based out of Canada, the global perception was Indian students do not spend. They don't have money to spend even. We had to show them actually surveys and research reports which cleared this fact that Indian students, because of the gig economy, were actually earning and paying for services. They're not poor. They have enough disposable income to afford this kind of service. So it's very clear to state your facts right and clear VC's misconceptions. Because otherwise discussion का parallelly change हो जाएगा, direction चला जाएगा.
right, वो कभी trust they'll never be able to build.
Yeah.
Got it. So I think pretty insightful conversations on the business model, valuation, everything. So a couple of last few questions which I have. So right now I think we've covered a lot of the business part, business angle, fundraising, etc. Where do you think is the edtech industry going in India? And because I've seen a lot of the macros are not supporting edtech, or at least this is what the media is putting down. So what do you see the future of edtech? And open for both of you to answer.
So edtech, I'll say the industry has not gone down. Okay, easy money has got down. So all the models who were surviving on discounts or were not selling sense, I would say, have got down. Even if you take a look at the industries today, how is physics wala surviving? You need to crack the right code. In India, bottom of the pyramid matters a lot. They built for it. The physics wala courses don't sell because of discount. They sell because they're appealing to the right kind of audience.
Yeah.
So I feel that is important. Every model in edtech you see, even if today I would build in edtech again, for example, I would build with the right matrices. In edtech, either you create a really premium product and you sell it to the right premium audience, delivering them the right skills. We're sitting in such kind of a end product, honestly.
Masters Union.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah.
Or if you build for the mass, you price it low, but deliver value, so that people would keep coming to you. Fix wala, mass appeal.
I think one thing in this is, I think those edtech companies won't survive 5 years down the line. We're actually building something like one size fits all.
Okay.
Education is something which is very close to your heart, right? When these parents talk about, we know everything about how our child...
education is the biggest expense anybody has to bear.
And everybody thinks that we know how education works. That's not the case, right? For every child it's different. So I think companies who are actually working on building models for everyone, going specific around personas, they'll stay. Companies who are building products which are one size fits all, they'll not go ahead. I'm pretty sure of that. And that we can actually see. There are many unicorns which are failing and only depending on hardware sales, depending on offline businesses, which is again, offline business again, one-on-one, right? So they are making money out of that and not the core business that they are.
It's not a startup, it's a dhanda they've copied from somebody which is working honestly.
Yeah.
And this was why we also survived, is because a lot of our competitors were just aggregation and distribution. For us, it was very clear, we mapped regions properly. We knew that a X subject in Calcutta University, of which Y is a topic, Y topic has 8 subtopics in Calcutta University, while it has 12 in Mumbai University. Why will the Mumbai guy buy the Calcutta note, man? And I think that is what worked for us also, honestly.
So I think personalization is the key somewhere down there.
Personalization, but at scale. Don't personalize for everybody sitting with.
Then it becomes a
Your cost over
headache for
You have to take personas, not persons.
Right. Bhupesh sir again.
Yeah.
Clustering.
Segment your audience.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, so okay, guys, the most pressing question I think, which even our batchmates would love to know,
Yeah.
why Masters Union at this particular stage of your life? You know, where you had a good amount of funding, great companies. I think you guys were at a position which would be like, let's say, my dream to be at
Yeah.
5 years down the line. So you're coming back, and repeating the circle of life. So I'm sure a lot of thought would have,
Yeah.
gone down to it. So why did you take this decision?
To be very honest, being honest with you, Smith. So I think when we were leaving lecturers, we were 23, right?
Mm.
So from 19 to 23, we had a good stint in education and starting up. So the company was becoming mature, right? And AI also came in, and the team thought that now we have to go into something else. Notes was definitely good, but it was not as sexy as AI, right? And then they thought that maybe hardware sales, maybe we can go into school education, we can go into corporate training. That is something that the team wanted to do, the board wanted to do. And we as founders, we were always about scale. We were always about distribution. We wanted to distribute products to millions of students, to millions of users. And that is something that we crave for as a founder, right? Even today, if I become an investor, I would invest in a company that is doing distribution. Maybe, right? I would see the business later, maybe distribution first. Okay, so that is what me and Upamanyu believed in, always. So then the company taking a different direction, they wanted to institutionalize it and get people who are actually into hardware sales, like someone from HCL, someone from HP, who actually did those kind of sales and created products around that thesis. So as founders, we thought now maybe, and because we had great relations with our investors, we thought now it's the best time for us to move out and maybe learn about newer sectors, learn about newer businesses, meet new founders, learn more, because we were only around education, we were only about people building in education, working in education. We thought now let's move out and maybe see the industry from a different lens. We have to be closer to the industry, right? We might start up, we don't know, because again, starting up is an accident. We don't think about building companies, we think about solving a problem. That is what we like. If Upamanyu is facing a problem, I'll solve it for him, and maybe a company can come out of that. So I think now that's why we came out and we had a conversation with Pratham Mittal, who is the founder of Masters Union. We told him that this is what we think, and he was also aligned to that. But again, joining Masters Union was the easiest way of getting to this network. Meeting guys like you, meeting smarter guys than us, and understanding their thesis, their ideas, and networking with newer people. So there are people like Sanjeev Bikhchandani coming to campus,
Yes.
people like Deep Kalra coming to campus, Rohit Kapoor coming to campus. They have built companies like Swiggy, InfoEd, Zomato, Naukri, Make My Trip. So you can learn from them. I think this is the biggest learning that we were lacking while we were building stuff. Definitely, we learned thousands of things, like hundreds, thousands of things. But this is again that we were lacking. So that's why we joined Masters Union. And also, we wanted to be on the other side of the table now. Like that is an aspiration that we had. We wanted to get into venture, and help founders. Founders who are like us, who are building now, and be on the passenger seat with them. Because be empathetic towards them. Because today, when we think about VCs, we think they're sharks, because thanks to Shark Tank, they think they're always there to negotiate and
Yes.
give you the cheapest deal. But it's not like that. VCs are your partners. They want your business to succeed. They want you to succeed. They are founders first. Most VCs are founders first, right? So I think a founder can share better with me, right? And I think I want to help founders. I want to help them get connected to mentors. I want to help them get connected to investors. I want to help them so that they grow. Being a VC or not, if I can become a VC or not, that's a different question. I want to be closer to them. I want to be closer to the ecosystem. And that is what I want to do. Maybe I'll start up 2 years down the line. Maybe I'll start up tomorrow. But again, being closer to the ecosystem, learning about new sectors is what is the main reason I left. So we are still in the company. We still own shares. Maybe down the line, my lecturers might get an exit, lecturer might get sold to someone else, or a company might buy it, and we would get an exit. But right now, money was always a byproduct. I think learning was the main focus that we left.
And this is very, very well explained, and I really respect your vision, and I hope you're able to accomplish that. So that was a great conversation.
Thanks.
I think with this, we are almost coming to end of the session. Just last few remarks which you like to give to your audience in terms of what they can do to actually be as thoughtful and as knowledgeable as you guys are, the kind of, let's say, some resources. I've always seen you, on your mobile reading some of the other news articles, and you're always busy making theses of other industries. So I think what would be your learning sources which you might like to communicate to the audience, and certain basic messages, mistakes which you made and which you want the youngsters not to make. So I think you look in the camera and give your last.
So essentially, I would encourage everybody at some point of their life to build. The learnings you get from building something, no business school, no undergrad degree, no job is going to give you that. Also, in terms of reading habit, read anything, man. As long as it's industry related or it gives you some sense, read it. For me, I use LinkedIn as my Facebook. I keep scrolling, keep reading what people's opinions are, what are the changes in the industry. And how it helps me actually is, suppose I'm sitting with an end person of some industry, and the person is mentioning some company or mentioning something. And because I've read something or the other regarding that, I'm able to engage in a conversation. And that is how you get opportunities in your life, to be honest. And mistakes, for me, never underestimate yourself. A lot of times in my journey, there has been cases where I have underestimated my own potential and I've backed down. Never do that. Always believe in yourself.
And lastly, so yeah, Upamanyu has actually summed up everything. So I think don't think about building, start building. That's the first thing that you should do. And a genius thing that we did was we never gave up, and that's how we even raised. Like raising is just again a process. I think building it, giving everything to it is something that you need to do, and stop procrastinating about it, and choose the right co-founder. I think that helps.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That you can see it very well here. Okay guys, I think I've learned a lot today in terms of starting up, in terms of scaling businesses. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm sure our audience would find a lot of value with this podcast. Thanks a lot for staying till the end.
Thanks,
Thank you.
man.
Thanks.